And without further ado, I'm now going to call the next session to order, please. This is going to be on Azerbaijan's energy transition. And I'd like to call the moderator, please, to the stage, Alessandra Rocasalvo, who is the UNDP resident representative. The stage is yours, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Guests to Baku, welcome. I'm Alessandra. I'm the head of the United Nations Development Program. Yes, me again. I want to set the scene and invite our next panel. So basically, first of all, congratulations to COP presidency for doing the first Baku Climate Week. This is not a mandated event, it's a voluntary contribution, but I am sure it is highly appreciated. I also want to congratulate you for an amazing week in New York. We all saw the coverage. I think you really moved the needle on what a COP presidency can do. So, how do we get to this topic? Azerbaijan's energy transition. It's a critical discussion we need to have. We all know this, we heard the previous panel, but the reality is, as a fossil fuel producer, you are on the forefront of transition. You are on the forefront of just transition, and that comes with great responsibility. So, the energy context we have heard from the previous speakers, there's a lot of untapped potential in renewable energy, diversification of economy, and what I'm particularly interested in job opportunity. How do the jobs of the future look like? Because they're not going to be the same. And especially if you go in the regions in Azerbaijan, you will see that things will be different. Lankaran, Nakhchivan, Karabakh. It's not the same ecology, it's not the same system, so it also requires slightly diversified solution. UNDP is the largest agency dealing with climate change, transition, all aspects, so I also feel the responsibility to contribute. We have launched the Climate Promise. I'm sure you heard about that. There's a whole website you can go. And let us explore now with this panel 3 aspects. One is ambition, acceleration, and inclusivity. Ambition is, of course, the famous NDC we heard about, the 1.5 degree, going to net zero, nature positive pathways. Acceleration means access to finance and technical assistance. So what is the top notch that we're dealing with? And inclusivity is a whole of society approach, and nobody could say it better than the last speaker, Michael, on the panel about including everybody. And to be honest, the best conversations I've had on COP was with taxi drivers and people in my local store who asked me questions, and then I thought, this is really the test. Can I answer those things in simple terms? So without further ado, let me invite the 6 speakers. One is Elnur Mülim, please, on the stage. Elnur Sultanov is, of course, the Chief Executive Officer of COP29. He's also Deputy Minister of Energy, and I hope he doesn't have any other jobs, because that seems quite a lot to me already. Elmir Musayev, General Director of SOCAR Green, please, on the stage. Patrick Herholt, Managing Director and Senior Partner of the Boston BCG, Boston Consulting Group. Alessandro Pesciani, who's Senior Vice President, Climate Technology Solutions of Baker Hughes. Maxim Zubov, Vice President, Siemens Energy. And last but not least, Abdullah Malek, Director, Energy Transition, COP28. And I was just about to say ladies and gentlemen, but it's just gentlemen. You can all sit down if you want. No? I have to stand? No. Okay. The last speaker has gone, so which means there's also a chair for me. Or shall I stand? No. Okay, I can sit down. And gentlemen, just one word. You have... Yeah, no, move one down. Move. Okay, so... Gentlemen, you know that I grew up in Germany, so when I say you have 5 minutes, I mean 5 minutes. maybe 10 seconds on top of it, you know? So please give us your spiel. You know, what is the energy transition of Azerbaijan going to look like? Where do you see opportunities, challenges? After 5 minutes, I will look at you with the eyebrow very like raised and a bit angry, so it's your cue to stop. And then I hope we can have a little bit of a discussion. So over to Elnor Millen, please.
Thank you so much, Alessandra. So I have 5 minutes now to talk about the
5 minutes.
preliminarily speaking about the transition in Azerbaijan. So when we say energy transition, I want to set this in a very straight manner. Green transition is a much larger concept, right? Energy transition is the most important part of green transition, but it's not all. Overall in the world, usually the emissions, those greenhouse gas emissions we talk about, that is culpable for increasing the surface temperatures, 70% of them come from energy sector, but also about 20% come from agricultural sector, which has nothing to do with energy. About 5 come from industry, which has nothing to do with energy per se, because there are certain processes in the industry that even if you burn totally green sources or use green electrons, you are going to still produce some greenhouse gases like cement production. And also about 3 to 4% come from waste sector, which has nothing to do with energy per se. We have similar numbers for Azerbaijan. So about 70% of emissions in the country of Azerbaijan comes from energy sector. And when I say energy, for instance, I include there, for instance, tractors used in agriculture, right? Those cars, trucks that carry waste, like all of them included, it's about 70%, which is really makes energy transition the most important part of the green transition, but it's not all. This is first. Second, regarding green energy transition in Azerbaijan, and I think this is also very similar to what is happening in the world. There are some low-hanging fruits and there are difficult to abate, hard to abate sectors. In Azerbaijan also, the lower-hanging fruits, I won't say low-hanging, but lower-hanging fruits would be in power sector and probably in transportation, especially light passenger cars. To me, we are going to be making a lot of, we are going to be witnessing a lot of developments, and these will be the harbingers of the green transition in Azerbaijan. Regarding power sector, power generation, currently, I should tell you that Azerbaijan produces electricity either from natural gas or renewable sources. And natural gas happens to be the cleanest of hydrocarbons out there, right? So per unit of energy produced, natural gas is about 80% less carbon intensive than coal. And Azerbaijan never used coal, is not using coal, despite the fact that we have coal mines. But to be honest with you, with great strides, currently we produce about 15%, including hydro, from renewable energy, our electricity, but this number should go up because the world average today is around 40%. Of course, in the world average, you have nuclear power as well, but still Azerbaijan has a great deal to go. And I think all over the world, by 2030, especially in the developed part of the world, we are going to be seeing up to 80% of electricity being produced from renewable sources, and that's amazing. By 35, some countries planning to go 100% will be very difficult, but I think theoretically possible. Azerbaijan does two things, and looking at my German friend and looking at my watch and seeing that I have less than 1 minute, in the power sector, we are doing two things. And first, we are doing these efficiency measures and greening measures are happening across all the value chain, production, distribution, and consumption. Regarding production, there are two things that are happening. First, we are replacing old Soviet-era inefficient plants with very efficient plants. In Mingechevir, you have the biggest power plant in the region, actually in the Caucasus. And it's being replaced now, and by early next year, we are going to have more than 30% efficiency in that plant per se. And I think that will save us around half a billion cubic meters of gas. And second thing we are doing, I'm finalizing, is greening up, right? We are replacing, we are not building currently any gas-fired power plants. We are building renewable power plants, and many of them are the first and the biggest in the region, and we are intent to increase that number very considerably by the end of this decade.
Elnur, you're done? Oh, wow. Amazing. I had an effect. So I want to point out one important thing that Elnur mentioned. It is the sort of nature positive pathways. You have coal mines, but you don't use them. And it is a fact that natural gas produces less emissions when transmitted into electricity. So it means the trajectory that the country is going is right, and this is a good sign. So the next speaker is Elmir Musayev, General Director of SOCAR Green. So please, Elmir Mulim, tell us what it is about SOCAR that is green.
Thank you. So first of all, let me express my heartfelt gratitude for inviting me to this panel. It is my pleasure to speak here today to discuss the important milestone in Azerbaijan's energy sector. So we all know Azerbaijan is a rich nation with its natural resources, long recognized for oil and gas reserves. And SOCAR, the name itself, has been synonymous with the robust oil and gas industry of Azerbaijan. However, the global shift towards clean energy and sustainability has prompted reevaluation of its strategies, not only in Azerbaijan, not only in SOCAR, but all over the world. And in this respect, SOCAR has made decisive steps to increase its presence in the global energy market while diversifying its activities. For those who followed or who were present in COP28 last year, SOCAR declared some decarbonization targets. At the center of its strategy is the ambitious goal of achieving net zero by 2050. That means significant reduction of GHG emissions, that means investments in renewable energy, and that means implementing innovative technologies. Within this context, it was at the end of 2023 when the Supervisory Board of SOCAR made a decision to establish a dedicated entity to forefront SOCAR's green initiatives, and it was in early 2024 when the company was formally established. Now, the company being a young company, we are quite ambitious, and I think we have achieved a lot of progress within the short period of time. I would like to name some of the projects that we are engaged in with some of our partners. So we have 3 projects with our partner from United Arab Emirates, Masdar, a total of which gives us a capacity of 1 gigawatt AC. It's 2 solar projects, 1 wind project. The project is under development. The project agreements were signed right before the Baku Energy Week this year on 3rd of June. And the shareholder agreement between the entities was signed immediately after that on 4th of June. We also have 1 project with BP, which is an interesting one. It is a virtual power transmission arrangement, which includes a solar PV, 240 megawatt AC solar PV in Jabrail district of Azerbaijan. That will supply the electricity to Sangachal terminal, so it will be effectively decarbonizing the upstream facilities of SOCAR and BP and some other shareholders as well. The project is also under development, and we expect to sign the shareholders agreement as well as the project agreements sometime soon. We also have SOCAR also signed a cooperation agreement during Baku Energy Week in 2023 with China Energy, which includes development of renewable energy projects in Azerbaijan, as well as exchange of expertise and know-how between the entities. And we are also working with China Energy on some prospective renewable energy projects in Azerbaijan, in Füzuli district of Azerbaijan. We also have a lot of other projects that are under research, under evaluation, under the feasibilities with different partners, including Apka Power, including with Masdar. We're also testing the potential of offshore wind, which, as you may know, Azerbaijan has a vast capacity of technical capacity, 157 gigawatts of offshore wind. So we are evaluating together with our partner with Masdar the feasibility of offshore wind production, as well as integrating that with the production of green hydrogen, green fertilizers, and other businesses. We also have small-scale but innovative decarbonization projects with companies from Europe, such as Total, such as German Uniper, and some other initiatives, obviously, in the pipeline. Lastly, I think I would like to add that SOCAR Green's mandate is also to improve, to prompt partnerships with the global top players in this industry, to exchange expertise, to maximize the learning curve, so that we can further implement the renewable projects in Azerbaijan, and not only in Azerbaijan, but hopefully in the region, because as we speak, there are obviously significant projects in the region that the governments involved are initiating. So hopefully SOCAR Green will also contribute a lot to these initiatives, to the regional decarbonization initiatives. Thank you.
That was extremely interesting and amazing, and I think the points on innovation and research and development is something we have to explore further. Partnerships and regional cooperation, because like the speaker said in the previous session and in the opening, this is everybody's problem, not just one country, and climate change and degradation of the environment doesn't know borders, as we know very well here in Azerbaijan. The next speaker is Patrick Herhold, Managing Director from the Boston Consulting Group. So tell us, what is the private sector thinking about energy transition in Azerbaijan? Over to you.
Yeah, very happy, and thanks for having me. Look, I wanted to take those 5 minutes, as I understand, to share a little bit of the success factors. What does it take to successfully drive a green energy transition, and that mainly indeed from a private sector perspective, i.e. from a business perspective. And let me phrase those along 5 Ps, which I call the 5 P success factors for green energy transitions. The first one is clearly potential. For Azerbaijan, I think we can tick mark this. In particular, given the size of the country, there is solid and very robust potential, definitely on the renewable side, more than 20 gigawatts of solar potential, more than 3 gigawatts of wind potential, all of that in the money, and in addition, a good range of additional technologies, for example, around the various forms of bioenergy. So I'm very confident on the first of those 5 P, the potential. It's definitely there for Azerbaijan. But that's just the necessary condition, and then there are 4 other P's that I would call the sufficient ones. The first one of those is policy. And policy in the wider sense. It does take a very strategic view on policy to develop a good green energy transition potential and business framework. Let's be honest, not all of the green technologies today are in the money. Renewables certainly are, efficiencies are, depending on the assumptions you can take, electric cars are. But hydrogen in most of its colors, some of the bioenergies are not yet, I would say. And this is where policy kicks in. I guess a good country strategy is to have a very clear policy. How do we support the ones that are in the money? And which are the ones, those technologies that are not yet in the money, that we as a country are going to support? And what's our policy framework around this? This is super clear and super important to have in place. Without that, there will be confusion, there will be mistrust in the market, etc. So a clear and robust policy that provides a framework, in particular for the technologies that are not yet in the money. That's number 2. The third one is partnerships, and I guess my prior speakers have commented on this. Let me share one view, though, or one thought. Obviously, what we quite often see is partnerships, in particular in the energy sector, among companies that have forever similar profiles in terms of skills and asset profiles. What I personally believe is that the most value-creating partnerships are between companies where there is a complementary profile of assets, of skills, etc. Two examples. The one is on the bioenergy feedstock. If you want to build a biogas, biomethane, biomass business, you rather want to secure access to the feedstock on the upstream side. This is not a commodity you can buy in a spot market type of fashion or simply go and source for a year. This is a long-term partnership you need. So you may want to have an interest in securing the feedstock supply early on and talking about partnerships of a long-term nature. And the second example is the same value chain on the downstream side, securing long-term offtake for everything that is around green molecules, partially around green electricity, is key to securing the business case and hence to make the certain projects an investable one. So my push here is to go beyond partnerships of equals to partnership of complementary nature in that sector, and that can even be with countries and not just between companies. The third P, and you also mentioned that before, is people. People is actually very core to the transition, in particular to Azerbaijan, where there used to be a history on the fossil energy side, a very strong and very reliable track record. And over time, this needs to be complemented, and over a very long time, this needs to be shifted now, obviously, to a green skills profile. And that is an active job that needs to be done by corporations, even more so by the public sector, I would say, in terms of upskilling program, in terms of training programs, in terms of strategic job creation programs. There's a second element I want to mention in the people dimension, and that is around what sometimes we as consultants call change management. Let's be frank that a green energy transition can also create questions, can create uncertainties that need to be answered and that rather need to be addressed proactively. I do see this in my home country, in Germany. There is a lot of initial optimism around the green energy transition, but recently there is also a lot of skepticism. And having a positive narrative, a vision to share, an explanation why is this good for the country and how do we manage the uncertainties is very, very important to be successful in the mid and long term. And the last P I want to share is on pragmatism. And I think Azerbaijan has a very specific chance, in particular in this field. Pragmatism, not least in the sense of avoiding bureaucracy. We see this too often in international energy markets, in European countries, where there's too much of a stick and too less of a carrot in terms of the policy that is being brought forward. My strong recommendation and push would be, and I see a huge chance for Azerbaijan, is to be pragmatic and clear about the chances and the opportunities of the transition. So in summary, those would be the 5 Ps. It starts with potential, tick mark for Azerbaijan, then about a clear and strategic lens on policy, about partnerships, about people, and around pragmatism, and that would be my view on the private sector side of the transition.
Patrick, thank you very much. I think it deserves an applause. And while you were talking, there was a lot of nodding on the last point of pragmatism, and I think from all countries out there, Azerbaijan is the one that can lead the way on this one, because like President Aliyev told my own boss when he was here in March, Azerbaijan has oil and gas for another 100 countries, years. Maybe not countries, but for 100 years. But it doesn't mean that it has to exploit it to the last drop before it transitions. It wants to transition now. And I think this type of pragmatism is what we need for partnerships. Like you said, have to be value added with the private sector. After all, there's still business to be made. So I'm looking forward now to hear the next person, Alessandro Bresciani, Climate Technology Solutions at Baker Hughes. The floor is yours. And Alessandro, 5 minuti.
5 minutes, okay. Thank you, Alessandra. Number one, I'm very pleased to be here. Baker Hughes obviously is a energy technology company. We are organized around 2 large segments, if you will. Oilfield service and equipment, which is fundamentally the upstream portion of the company that we provide our services, obviously, to the oil and gas sector. And then we have the industrial energy technology, where obviously we have a variety of solutions there, mainly on the transformation of the molecular and serving not only the oil and gas sector and the energy sector, but also the industrial sectors. 2 years ago, actually it was the beginning of 2022, it's almost 3 years, we decided to organize a business unit in order to drive technology around solution for the reduction of emission in general. We call it Climate Technology Solution. I got the privilege to run that business unit. Obviously, there's an investment, a significant investment on technology when we provide our solution. We have been in the country, in Azerbaijan, for quite a while. First office was opened in 1995 in order to support, obviously, the energy sector in the country. We mentioned the technology portion. Obviously, our angle to come in and work on the climate is through the technology. Technology you can fundamentally split in two parts. What is available today, which is deployable, and what we are developing for the future. All the time that we talk about a reduction of emission, we think about how we're going to do that in the future. Actually, we can do something today. There's technology available that can help to reduce the emissions. Globally, we start to see a little bit more pragmatism, so less people looking for the silver bullet. Step by step start to become acceptable, in particular because certain solution can be in the money. You alluded to that, Patrick, before. And so we have a solution that can go in that direction. Here we are talking about deflaring activities. We are talking about elimination of leakage, monitoring the leakages of methane. We can talk about geothermal. We can talk also reinjection of CO2 and storage of the CO2 that, I mean, as a technology has been there for quite a while, is absolutely deployable today. On the new technology, obviously, we talk about a little bit more on certain post-combustion technology that can come and be fruitful in the next 3-4 years, and also new way to produce powers. Obviously, technology came with a significant amount of investment from a company perspective, but is coming also with a different paradigm, and the paradigm is fundamentally around the partnership. Patrick was alluding to this also before. There's a lot to do, and not everybody has the full solution. So the partners is needed also to come out with the technical solution, the fit for the purpose. And that's something that has been there in the past, but in this sector is much more evident and much more needed at the end of the day. So those are the two aspects where obviously we play. On one side, there's the technology angle, and on the other side, obviously, the partnership with the customers, with other suppliers, sometimes also with the traditional competition, because obviously there's space for everybody in order to fulfill the requirement of the customers. I'm done, Alessandra.
Bravo, that deserves really some applause, because only 4 minutes. But we have some common themes emerging. One is the whole angle of pragmatism, no silver bullet. I will steal that line for one of my future speeches. And how do you, at the end of the day, you're doing research and development for the future, not for today's problems, but for tomorrow. And I think this is an important aspect. And after this round is through, I also want to hone in a little bit on curricula, education of young people. Are we learning the right things so we can shape the future together? However, we still have 2 speakers. One is Maxim Zubov. He's the next one. You are Vice President of Siemens Energy. So tell us, Maxim, what is Siemens Energy thinking about energy transition in Azerbaijan?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I'm more than happy to represent Siemens Energy in this honorable event and to share some perspective of our company for decarbonization. First, I'm not tired to repeat that the decarbonization journey is extremely complex. Unfortunately, even in our industry, you could still meet the people who say, okay, it's about renewables and that's it, so it's quite simple. And I mean, to reach this trilemma of affordability, reliability, sustainability, I mean, to cook this soup, the number of ingredients, it's really hard to count. Yeah, so there's many ingredients and all the regional specifics will bring another dimension to this. Yeah, so it's something which is really, really, really not simple. In Siemens Energy, so we have, as a company, more than 100,000 employees who is dealing with a different aspect of decarbonization every day. So we are producing the extremely efficient gas turbines. We are doing the electrolysis, so we are doing the electrolysis station. We are in the compression side, electrification, automation, digitalization, heat pumps, and all this. And still, we cannot do this alone. Yeah, so this is a trip and journey, which is, as I'm happy to resonate with previous speakers, it's require partnership, and this is a totally different level of partnership. So I would say to reach decarbonization targets, so the previous kind of relation between the customer and supplier, so they will not help you to reach your decarbonization target. So it's much broader, and I would probably compare to some agility level that used to be only in IT industry maybe, and the level of co-creation which is required now, it's totally different. So it's, I mean, the decarbonization here requires to revise entire partnership schemes that we used to work with. Second topic probably from my side to share that decarbonization requires, it should be managed. Yeah, so because we are talking a lot about the decarbonization, but it should be managed. And there's a lot of aspects to be synchronized. So the renewables implementation, grid development should be absolutely in sync. So the regulation and standards. So it's a lot of synchronization, and therefore the second message probably would be that decarbonization definitely need to be well managed. Yeah. So another aspect also was briefly touched upon. So 50% of the technologies for decarbonization, for carbon neutral future, they available now at the moment, but 50% of them either not available or they are not commercialized yet. And probably one of the big examples would be a green hydrogen, which is a cornerstone in the future for the decarbonization of the future, but it's simply not commercialized enough. The economy of scale definitely should reach to implement this in the full scale. Another topic would be probably not to forget to still invest into the running operations. And a lot was said that if you would underinvest in the certain topics now, so you will bring some volatility on the market, you will bring some, I would say, dissatisfaction by the consumers, and overall you will undermine your decarbonization efforts from the public opinion perspective. So actual operation on on improvement, on an efficiency improvement should not be forgotten. And decarbonization also requires some courage. So this is also to be the first mover and to get some advantages of being the first mover. So as a first mover, so there is quite an open information that around 15 million of new jobs will be required to reach decarbonization targets, and definitely first movers will get some risks, but it's other aspect of de-risking the industry to have a kind of safe net from the politician, from the funding instrument, so it should be provided. But there is definitely to be advantage to be courageous enough to be a first mover. And I would probably finalize from my perspective just to name two projects that we in Siemens Energy specifically, I would say, proud of. One of the projects is a high flex power. This is a consortium for the project with 100% green hydrogen burning in our gas turbine. So the project initially started with burn 70% of natural gas in France and 30% was a green hydrogen. So we achieved roughly 1 year ago the full operation on the 100% green hydrogen. And I believe with this we proved that green hydrogen could be really flexible fuel of the future, and the commercial operation is really behind the corner. And second project is Haro-Oni. So this is the first probably in the world project for power to X application. So this is a production in Chile, production of e-methanol. So again, the full cycles of solar, wind. So then the production of respective green hydrogen, then the CO2 absorption from the open air. And we have I would say, first certification now of really e-fuel with a full potential to decarbonize also the mobility industry, where it's still quite a challenge. So therefore, I believe these two quite encouraging examples will give some also positive momentum in this discussion, and bring some courage in this discussion as well. So thank you.
Wow. Everybody liked what you said about courage, because it's easy to underinvest now, to go behind what maybe voters want to hear or what's in politics. But like you said, the synchronization is important, so you don't invest now in certain technologies, there's not going to be any solutions tomorrow. And your second point on supplier-customer relationship management, I think is also important, because the public is different. People are more educated, more informed, or less, because there's so much misinformation out there. So I think very important topics. Yeah, we're coming to our speaker, Abdullah Malek, who's the Director of Energy Transition for COP28. You've done it all. You've done it last year, so we're all glad when in 2 months we can finally relax. So please, the floor is yours. Tell us what you have, lessons that you can share from home, here, applicable in the context of Azerbaijan. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandra. Okay, that was too loud, I guess. Thank you, Alessandra, and thanks for hosting us here, COP29. It's a real pleasure to be between colleagues and excellencies. Allow me to do what politicians do the best. They nod as they understand the question, but then they answer a completely different answer. So especially that I was expecting you would ask me to recap on what the other gentlemen and speakers have mentioned, but I'm glad that was not the question, because sitting here on the stage, believe me, it's difficult to hear what other colleagues are saying, but I'm sure it was super interesting. And the second point is, I just flew back from New York Climate Week, so I'm half jet lag, which means it's really not easy to keep focused. But let me tell you what I am super excited about. His Excellency, the Minister of Energy of Azerbaijan, has highlighted 3 initiatives on energy, and I'm only going to speak about energy because I am the Director of Energy Transition within COP28. The other topics are definitely very important, but I'm still biased to the energy topics. So the 3 things are the energy, the green energy storage pledge, the green energy zones and corridors, and the last one, and which is also very important, which is about the hydrogen. So let me track back to COP28 so that you understand why I feel these are very critical initiatives by the COP29 presidencies, that actually COP29 is approaching very soon. I think it's 41 days. So I understand the stress that the COP29 team is going through. Believe me, we had a counter at our office that shows since 100 days left, everyone was freaking around. So I fully stand with you, COP29 team. We will make it together, inshallah. So at COP28, back in December the 2nd, it took us at least 2 weeks for the parties to come together and reach a consensus on the most, I would say, critical topics on energy. And I'm sure everyone knows, which is the transitioning away from fossil fuels. It was not an easy language to land at, but we made it together. All the parties agreed finally that we need to take real action towards reducing our reliance on fossil fuels if we would like to keep our promise and maintain the global temperature below 1.5. The other thing is, to achieve that, we need to find an alternative source of fuel and energy, which is why we doubled down on the tripling of renewables and the doubling of energy efficiency. Now, and all of that is by 2030. So luckily, there is a lot of great progress. Last year, we added more than 423 gigawatts alone to the global grid in terms of energy generation from renewables. And that by itself shows you that we are actually in a trajectory of reaching 2.5 by 2030. However, we need to do a little bit more. So that's why we have been together with the COP29 presidency last week, mobilizing private sector as well as public sector under the Global Renewable Summit, so that we can actually double down on our actions and move faster to be able to achieve the tripling. Now, a very critical enablers to the tripling of renewables are the storage of energy, because you know that renewables are actually intermittent, especially if you are talking about solar. And for that to be able, to achieve that tripling and ensure that it's a resilient energy system, we need to have a robust energy storage in place. And that's why we are very excited about what COP29 team is working on, mobilizing support and endorsements in pledging and committing to increase the green energy storage. I know that the declarations are still under preparation, so I won't go into the numbers and the details. And then I will also jump to the energy corridors, because there is no transition without transmission. And that's where it's very important to understand that developing grids is a very critical and important subject that I'm excited in the energy storage, in the clean energy zones and the corridors will be a great enabler for accelerating our deployment of grids that will connect cross countries. Allow me to quickly, I know I am out of time, so I'll quickly jump to the last element, which is hydrogen. I know the presidency, COP29, is working on a pledge on hydrogen. And for the skeptics of the hydrogen applications, I'm a big believer of hydrogen. Now let me tell you why. If we go back in time, I wasn't born at that time, but I understand that cars and automobiles running around the streets everywhere was not the norm. The norm was horses running around. So everyone, when you tell them that you will be using a car, the first question to their mind was, how would I pay for the car, and how I would even pay for the gasoline to pay to run the car, right? It would be cheaper for me actually to buy some grass and feed my horse. But today, we don't see any horses running around the streets. So when the technology evolves, things become way cheaper and way reachable and accessible by every individual. And I believe that's the case going to be for hydrogen. Another good example is mobile phones. In the past, we did not have mobile phones. It was only landlines. And for mobile phones to penetrate, we would need to establish and install an antenna everywhere. And that was not something feasible. But today, the norm is a handheld device in every individual's pocket. So I believe that's the case going to be for hydrogen. And that's why I'm very excited about the hydrogen pledge. We need to start with low carbon hydrogen and then move into green hydrogen to allow that energy form to penetrate through the different applications. With that, I'm very excited about the discussions after all, and there is a very interesting discussion about mobilizing the oil and gas sector to be part of the solution, which is at 5:30. So we look forward to seeing you all there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you made a very important point about this nature positive acceleration by not just having the renewables, but also having storage and having the grids, and also reminding us, of course, technology gets cheaper as it evolves. So, gentlemen, we have 10-15 minutes, and there were so many interesting points, but allow me, I'm a development person, I want to hone into the aspect of education, green jobs, future. Elnur, I know you have been a professor at university. What would you tell young people what type of career to go in if they want to support, if they want to work in this energy and environment sector, if they want to support climate change? And do we have curricula that are actually able to do that? And what would you recommend? And so over to you, and I can already say that I will ask everybody the same question. So give advice to young people, to new generation.
Yeah, thank you, Alessandra. So, I think the solution to the climate crisis we have, hopefully the process started. But the ones who will finalize and eventually remove this problem perhaps are today kids. They are going to, right now probably they are in school. They are not here, right, among us. Because the amount of the problem we are facing is huge. I mean, we emitted about 2.5 trillion carbon dioxide equivalent of gases, and we have about 500 billion to go. That means that if we continue the way we do, after 10 years, it's over. We are reaching the 1.5 degree. And I think there are two things that keeps amazing me. First, as I said before, right, like I view the international community as composed of three segments. It's countries, states, political forces, it's private companies, and it's kind of civil society. And the climate warnings, climate sensitivity came from civil society, and it's scientific portion, scientific segment of civil society. In 70s and 80s, it was the epistemic community, scientific community that started to tell the world that we are facing a crisis. Starting from 1992, political forces joined these civil societal groups. And now we are expecting the business to join so that we have this golden triangle. And business, of course, is not going to join unless they are going to be making profit out of climate action. Currently, climate action doesn't pay, and probably that's the biggest problem. It remains to be an externality, negative externality, public bad, but corporations won't be acting unless there is something to be made. And here the pressure from civil society and regulations by the government become very important. But at the same time, I'm sure that we have these private corporations representatives, both in the panel and the audience, but there is a sense of responsibility. There's this guilt. I personally feel that guilt when I drive a big car, when I drive a car instead of taking subway, when I accelerate my car more than what I needed, right, maybe for fun. I personally feel guilt. And I think this sense of guilt is also part of this societal awakening that is happening right now. And for us, older people, well, I think it will make a difference. But kids their moral world is being constructed along those lines. And that's very, very important. So beyond what politics says and what politics regulates, beyond what corporations are going to be making as profit or not no profit, this sense of responsibility, this global responsibility as citizens of the world is much stronger in the kids, in young population, right? And so Leila, I don't know Leila Hassanova, whether she's here or not, and she's doing a fantastic job. And I was very much moved when I saw that the bulk of her activities are focused on education, education, and education. So if we, Alessandra, this moral, again, identity formation that is happening, and which really makes me very optimistic about the new generation, if we synergize that with the correct education, and again, education is important because it started with science. It started with this, as I said, scientific community. They are in a very good position. And when scientists talk, actually, we keep silent, right? So that's really great thing. When I have been to negotiation processes, different voices are coming. But when scientists talk, everybody keeps silent and listens to them, and all that rumor stops. So joining that moral responsibility with the correct education, I think, is the way to go. We are going to do our best. It won't be enough. But with that combination, I think we are going to be solving this problem. Thank you.
Elmir Müller, what type of people does SOCA want to hire in the future?
Apologies, to the same question, right? Yeah. So as SOCAR Green, I think we would like to add, or I'd like to start with some good news that today, when we see interest for the career development in our company, we receive an important message from the interested parties that they're not interested in employment at our organization, not only for career development or achieving a certain amount of wealth during their lifetime, but more like to contribute to these milestone that the country is going through. So they want to be part of this transition. They recognize the importance and the benefit of decarbonization, and they want to be part of this big game. So I think there is already a big interest stemming from that perspective, which is obviously good news. But at the same time, I think we as Sokar Green, and I think any other company in this industry, should recognize the importance of awareness of this industry. We don't need just to learn and accumulate expertise at our company, but we need to share that knowledge with the population, with the younger generation, so that they understand the importance, as His Excellency Deputy Minister said, that they need to feel at some level the feeling of guilt that certain actions have consequences, and there is a lot that we can do to change the future of not only this country but the planet Earth, which is a homeland to all of us. So as Sokar Green, we will be engaging with the universities. We will be trying to increase the awareness of this industry, not only for the benefit of the company itself, but for the benefit of the country, for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I gave home right to our Azerbaijani speaker. We have 5 more minutes. If I can ask the rest of the panel to raise their hands or take the mic and tell us what's the advice for young people. What career, what can they do, and what type of people would you like to hire in the future? Anyone? Patrick?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first, and to be short, I would always encourage young people to go for engineering and technical fields. Maybe that's, I have a personal bias in this, engineer by background, but I just found when you have this basic technical education, the world opens up and you can do literally anything thereafter. It's a bit more difficult the other way around. So my simple, maybe too simple suggestion would be the appreciation of basic science, of engineering as such in higher education is never a wrong one for any country. It's not just about the green energy transition, it's about the fundamental future. Where I'm more concerned about is artisans, skilled jobs outside university education. This is where we continue to see a real shortage across the globe. And that needs more structural intervention beyond the visionary elements of an engineering push.
Alessandro, Maxi?
Yeah, I want to comment on a few things here, obviously, because we have some common denominator. Obviously, we look for technical people predominantly, but not only. Not only. We have an organization that is 58,000 people globally, so we look for different profiles, of course. I do believe that working on climate and working on the energy transition, we have a phenomenal purpose in front of us that attracts really the young generation, if you will. The traditional energy went down a little bit in the attractiveness for the young people out of the university. We've been competing with the high-tech companies in order to have the best guys out of the schools. The reality that the climate can change fundamentally that equation, because the purpose is important, and obviously we are on a mission in order to make this planet better. And we're going to need the new generation. We're going to need a new generation because they're going to be the ones that are going to break through in the significant way. We just need to end off something that is manageable for them.
Maxi?
Yeah, maybe just also to complement from my side. First, so decarbonization is really linked to the sector coupling. And for me, it goes with a certain flexibility for individuals to actually to start career in one industry and shift to the other one. Yeah, so it's definitely about to have a broader picture overall, have a respective mindset, but being flexible. And probably second topic, it's, for energy sphere used to be quite inertial, quite conservative. And so what we discuss, today, so we do need innovation. So it's really to keep innovative spirit also in energy sector, which used to be kind of conservative. So it's a overall flexibility, and this innovative spirit is something which should be, raised in the new generation to support energy transition.
30 seconds for you.
Absolutely. So I would say under the UAE consensus, all parties, 198, agreed that we need all technologies to be able to transition. That includes hydrogen, that includes nuclear, that includes carbon capture, storage, sequestration, that includes any technology that will take us into a future that is more sustainable. And this also includes sustainable fuels, SAF, and so on. So wherever you find your passion in any of these, this list, I think the transition is real. You'll be the driver of change. So be part of that change and drive it. Thank you.
Wonderful. This deserves applause. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our panel. I hope you found it interesting. I take away that we need more women in STEM jobs, right, than at university. Not me, I'm just economist. And a bit of shameless self-promotion. UNDP has an event with Ombudsperson this week, exactly on the topic of business and human rights, the right to work, the right to new skills. So if you're interested in that, come and find somebody from UNDP. They're all sitting at the table over there, and we can give you more information. Thank you to the organizers, and I hand over to you.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much, Alessandra. That was masterful chairing and masterful timekeeping, I have to say, by every single speaker. Thank you so much for that. So we are now back on time. So we have now, I think, earned a break. It is now lunchtime. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking every single person on the panel.